Hey, good evening, everybody. We're going to get rolling again. Welcome back to Straight Talk. And as promised, we have the two most popular people in the union sitting next to me tonight. Um, I'll let Brooke introduce herself first, and then we'll move over to Irene.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Brooke Pearman. I'm the director of the contract department. Great to talk to everybody tonight.
Hello, everyone. It's Irene Green, your Vice President of the Bargaining. Nice to see you all here today. Thank you for showing up. Looking forward to an interesting conversation.
So we have no presentation tonight. We're going to roll straight into taking calls. So if you have a question, concern, anything that has to do with bargaining, raise your hand and we will start taking questions. No hands. You mean you're going to leave it up? You're going to leave us out here hanging? Come on.
I know people
So-
have questions about telework.
Well, let's okay. David.
There we go.
All right.
We got two now.
We had to shut it down last time we were here. So.
Exactly. Good evening, David. Please unmute. Join us.
Great, thank you. So my question is for Brooke. I know she came on last time and mentioned with the last contract negotiation that pictures were put on the wall and things like that, and kind of brought the state negotiators to tears. So what was the gain for that? Did the state just automatically just open up the checkbook where hey, we'll give these folks a raise? So I'm just wondering if it's just better to just go with like facts and what inflation is at the current time, just to go that route. And my other question is, who are these folks on the other side? Is it Cal HR? Is it does Cal HR farm out to a different firm to negotiate on their behalf? And what is the I guess the environment in during these negotiations on who's on the other side? And my other question, or maybe suggestion, so might be more so for Bill. I watched one of the executive board meetings that you guys had on the weekend and other times. I don't know if it's possible to have the folks, whoever call in, to maybe give them a Robert Rules of Order cheat sheet, because I hear a lot of like, point of clarification, point of information, and some of the folks, I'm sure the other folks do know the rules well, but it seems like there's a lot of time wasted on just getting the right terminology down before you or the parliamentarian could kind of remind folks what the correct way of expressing their feelings and thoughts and whatever.
All right, David, I'm going to give Brooke just a minute to put her thoughts together.
Sure.
So believe it or not, the entire board had received parliamentary training prior to the last board meeting. That may sound hard to believe. I have come to the conclusion that maybe that wasn't the best training that we could have provided. So we're still working on that. But, like me, you, or anybody else, as an adult, our behaviors are a choice. And some people are making the choice to be disruptive. So we'll get that figured out going forward. As we move towards June, we're working to have a more orderly, productive meeting.
Sure.
And we'll get there. It's a process, right? There's been a lot of upheaval and a lot of change. We'll get there. I have a lot of faith in the board as a collective whole. And with that, I'm going to turn you over to Brooke.
Sure.
Thanks, David, for your question. So your first question kind of related to this idea about presenting member stories versus more factual research-based information. So the first point I would make is that we always do both. So it's not an either or. We have a fantastic research department. We do present numbers on inflation, on salary compensation comparisons between other state workers, city, county, outside of California in comparable jobs. So we do have a lot of fact-based information that we present at the table. But what we've seen connect with management is also member stories. So, I've said this 100 times, and I told you guys last time I was here, I've been an attorney for over 15 years. I've done nothing but union side representation and bargaining. So you can have the most strategic professional negotiators at the table. They can all be attorneys. They can make the best arguments. But oftentimes, and what I've seen in my experience, is where you make that connection typically comes from member stories. That's what moves people. That's what, in any type of negotiation session, you need to connect with people. And that seems to doesn't do it more effectively. So in the example I gave last time, I think I was talking about mandatory overtime. And we were able to secure language in our contract for the first time that gave firmer language for management to commit to than we had ever done before. And we had been working on that for goodness, like 10 years. And the stories really were moving. But I just want to point out that that isn't done in isolation. That's done with a lot of fact-based evidence to go along with it. So those two things are always married together. And then you asked about who bargains for the state, and it varies. So CalHR typically does the bargaining for the state of California, and it's their labor relations folks that do it. So not their legal department. They have a separate department that does their labor relations. And then they bring to the table labor relations representatives from some of your departments. So within each bargaining unit, for example, when Unit 1 goes to the table, and Irene can talk a little bit more about that, they have departments present that are more heavily represented by Unit 1. So they have a lot of Unit 1 members working for them. And so we don't get to choose who's on their team, just like they don't get to choose who's on our team. At master table, it tends to be some of the largest departments. For example, corrections is almost always there. But again, that's CalHR and the state's decision which departments they decide to bring to the table for them. But it is all labor relations representatives. So I hope that answers both of your questions.
I see. May I ask just one follow-up question?
Sure, go ahead.
So with the last contract, there were the special salary, the SSAs. So I guess how does that determine what classifications, I guess, are considered for SSAs at the time of contract negotiations?
So each bargaining unit, their bargaining teams make decisions around which classifications are most in need. And typically it's done through data based on recruitment and retention numbers that we've looked at in the prior contract cycle. So usually the 3 years prior. But typically we propose almost every classification that comes to us and says, hey, we think we deserve more money and we believe we have some semblance of an argument to raise around why this classification is underpaid. We pass that as a proposal. Now, ultimately, which ones the state agrees to, I mean, that's kind of reading the tea leaves on what they think on their side. What we've seen move them in the past, again, it's recruitment and retention numbers. They're always looking at, do they have a higher turnover rate? If they don't have a problem hiring people into that classification, then in their minds, they're thinking, we don't need to pay them more. If you don't want to work here, then we'll get somebody else in here to do it. There is some amount of thinking around losing more experienced employees. We've seen that especially in Unit 11, for example, where some of these folks who've been doing the job, and you can only really learn it on the job over the last 20 years. When that person leaves, there's this knowledge gap. That amounts to something to the state, and we can raise arguments around that. And then folks who have high membership numbers in their classification and are engaged and active. And we say this, but the squeaky wheel does get the oil. So if you are a classification and you are organized and you're engaging in actions at work sites, management can see that, may pay attention to that as well. So those are some of the factors that management looks at.
I see. Great. Thank you, Bill. Thank you, Brooke. I have another question, but I'll get back in line and let
Okay.
give a chance to.
We appreciate that, but keep listening in the meantime. Irene, did you have anything to add to?
No, actually, Brooke was right on spot. I'm basically in Unit 1, and as you said, we try to put up every classification that we can put up for a specialist salary adjustment. And what it comes down to is exactly that. How are you organized? What's your membership? The squeaky wheel aspect of it. And basically, it's up to the negotiation process in the actually when it comes out in the wash. It's how we get to that and what we can negotiate with the state. So it's definitely around getting everything together during this coming few months, getting your data together and working with all of your cohorts as to whether or not you can move this at the bargaining table for a special salary adjustment.
So let's move on. Good evening, Corey. Please unmute and join us.
Thank you for taking my call. This is a multi-tiered question. And I'm not for sure here it's going to be geared toward regarding membership and bargaining. Currently, I am in bargaining unit 1 and I'm a dues paying member. However, I am going to be switching classifications shortly, and I believe I'm going to be in bargaining unit 7. So one of the questions is tiered towards membership. If I'm in bargaining unit 1 and I switch over to bargaining unit 7, do I have to opt out of the bargaining unit and then enroll myself into bargaining unit 7, or is it automatically done? And then secondly is about bargaining. I know bargaining unit 7 already has a telework agreement in place for the stipend, and I know bargaining unit 1 is currently working on the retroactive signage and the back pay. So if I'm currently in bargaining unit 1, but I switch to bargaining unit 7, will I get the back pay from bargaining unit 1 while I'm in bargaining unit 7?
Boy, you're really going to make us think tonight, aren't you, Corey?
Well, that's your job. That's what we pay the big
So-
bucks for.
So, Brooke, I think he's talking to you.
Well, right, it ain't you and I.
Right.
Corey, do you know when you're leaving the bargaining unit? Because that's
Um,
gonna be,
To determine.
yeah.
I signed my one of my conditional job offers, but I haven't finalized my the final job offer yet. But I'm assuming it's going to be within the month.
Okay, I mean, so to answer your first question, when you get over to bargaining unit 7, it's gonna depend on how they handle their membership. My guess is that you will not automatically become a member of bargaining unit 7, that when you get over there, they probably have something similar to what we have, which is they do a new orientation process, and in that period of time, you would be approached by unit 7 and asked to become a member. You will automatically, through the state system, though, be dropped from the unit 1 bargaining unit into the bargaining unit 7 unit. But that doesn't necessarily mean that you will become a member. So you're going to need to follow up with the union to make sure that happens. And then in terms of the back pay, you know what? I don't know the answer to that, and I don't want to answer until I know. So I will follow up with the state and find out how they have handled that with the retroactivity implementation in other units, to see when are they going to, basically they look at payroll and they take a snapshot and they do it month by month. So if you are not in unit 1 at the time that hits, you may not get our stipend, but you'll probably be getting it from unit 7. So the real question surrounds the retroactivity, and I need to find the answer to that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Oh, I do have one follow-up question. So I know that this is more like the membership piece. So once the state activates me as bargaining unit 7, do I automatically become de-enrolled into bargaining unit 1?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Good evening. Ranjana, is it? I hope I got your name right because I don't do well with that.
It's Ranjana. Thank you. Thank you
You're
for
welcome.
taking my call.
Welcome.
Thank you for having me here. I work for an agency that's really, really tiny. It's a agency of 4 and a student assistant. So basically 5. We are a client agency of a bigger agency. But what I wanted to ask about is Corey just touched on the retro telework stipend. So that was one of my questions. So that kind of got answered. And secondly, what is going to be the telework process? Like right now, I did lose a spouse during COVID. I don't have family help, so I'm doing everything myself. Telework is working. I'm actually, we're doing everything via telework, but my director did briefly mention that we may be going back. And if we do, then the stipend will be $25. But if we're going to the office once a month, but teleworking the rest of the time, what determines how much they're supposed to pay us in the stipend? I guess is my question, if that makes sense.
We'll let Irene talk about that since everybody else has talked too much.
Hi, Ranjana. Typically, yeah. So it's based on remote centered and office centered. And remote centered is basically if you're working out of the office 50% of the time or more. And office centered is if you're working in the office 50% of the time or more, right? And so not typically knowing whether or not you're going to be teleworking one day a month or not, or if you're coming into the office one day a month and the rest of it is teleworking, you would then fall into the remote centered criteria. Okay. I know you're a small agency, and the retro telework is from January 1st, 2022. And so typically, if you are only going in once a month, as you have given us, that would be remote centered. And so it would be the $50. Does that answer your question, Rajana? Did we lose her?
We may have lost her.
I think we might have lost her.
I hope she'll come back. Good evening, Mr. Wake. How are you tonight?
Pretty good, Bill. How are you?
Okay, if you're going to eat dinner on the screen, you've got to order DoorDash for all of us. There's 8 of us in the room tonight, please. And
Okay.
and while we might have to get you their addresses, you should include the interpreters.
Okay. Okay, I'll keep that in mind the next time. A lot of times when I do these late, or not late, but online meetings, it's right around the dinner hour. So I'm fixing a quick sandwich or reheating something in the microwave and eating while I'm watching the meeting. So anyways, just just some points really than questions. So first thing I wanted to say is we had a very delightful meeting with Irene Green, our Vice President of Bargaining. It's to your left there at the Commission on Teacher Credentialing last week. As you know, Bill, or maybe you don't know, if you don't know, you do now, that once a month I bring lunches into the members at the Commission. And they come in, pick up their food, and we haven't really been able to have sit-down meetings for quite some time. So this was the first time that we've been able to actually get some feedback from the members as to what's going on. And most of it was informational. We had maybe about a dozen people. I work at a small agency. The Commission is roughly about less than 200 people. So it's the turnout, we still have most people working from home, but the meeting was very informative, and President Ben Arriaga was there, and we're going to be doing this again. And as I was just speaking to our MRC rep, Kevin Martinez, today, he's putting, I guess all the MRC reps have to put together a plan to go out to the sites, and Kevin was pleased to hear that we are ahead of the game. We're organizing that even prior to him, talking to me about that the other day when I talked to him about some other issues were going on at the Commission. So, we're moving forward at 767, and we're ready, able, and willing to go. And we're not sitting on our hands here. We're moving forward and doing whatever we can. The only other point I would like to make is, I think it was a gentleman by the name of David that touched on the meetings. And, without mentioning any names, because I don't want people, would be wrong to do that. I don't want people calling in and saying, Richard Wake said this or that, but yeah, there's, I don't know what the answer is 100%. And I'm sure you guys are working diligently to get this done. But I'm sure a lot of the DLCs are moving forward, doing what we're doing. And if not, they will be soon. But as a whole, we cannot move together until the obstruction stops. Okay. And that's what some of the.
I think that's a point well taken, Richard, and I think there are many, many, many people who would agree with you. Let me
Right.
ask you one question before
Sure.
before we move on. So you were talking about being out with your members,
Yes, sir.
and you hadn't done that in a while.
Right.
What's one thing that you learned in talking with them?
Well, I think most of them were pretty happy with the telework agreement. We certainly didn't hear any complaints. I think although one member from bargaining unit 4 kind of confused it a little bit with the essential worker pay and the teleworking, and I think Irene cleared that up very nicely with the member that asked that. But I send updates out to the members. I'm going to say at least 2 to 3 times a month, sometimes more. And I inform them about the telework agreement, and I keep them posted on things. And we are going to have a DLC meeting regularly, but I would have to say that probably the thing that I hear a little bit about two things I hear about the most is a few, excuse me, small internal issues that we're dealing with at the commission that hopefully can be resolved. One of which is, unfortunately, we seem to be having a trend of pardon me, a trend of escalation of unhappy people that are contacting us for whatever the reason is. And some people are getting out of hand, and I'm working on trying to get that nipped in the bud as best as possible. But I think the other thing is people want, the union to move forward. And, they're happy with the telework agreement, but, they want to see the essential worker pay. They're looking forward to the town hall meetings, and they're just concerned, I think, that all the, some of the obstruction that's taking place is going to affect that. And just so you know, I think the majority of people that I've talked to are also very supportive of what you're doing, Bill. I have not heard any negative comments from anybody at the commission. Of course, we haven't talked to too many people outside of the commission and where Ben and Nicole and Stephanie are, but
I'm
yeah,
gonna
we're all good.
Good. I'm good. So thanks for all of that. Thanks for sharing about the telework. And
Right.
I'm going to go back to sort of a common theme as we close with you is that, yeah, we talk about what we're doing, but please watch what we're doing.
Right.
Watch the work that we're getting done. That's, we keep asking people, watch the work, measure the work.
Right.
Hey,
Can
thanks.
I just say one more comment?
I don't know. You've got a lot of time already,
Okay.
and I got
Okay,
a
just
lot
very
of hands
briefly,
up.
I'm telling everybody, it may take a month, it may take 2 months, it may take a little while longer. The ship is going to start sailing straight soon. Hang in there. Just hang in there. That's what I'm telling you.
I think
Okay.
we're already sailing pretty hard at the moment.
I agree with you. Just some people need that reinforcement.
Thanks, Richard.
Bill.
All right.
Yeah, thanks. Okay, thank you, Irene. Bye-bye.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Hi, Thomas. Can you unmute? Come join us.
Yes, thank you.
I finally made space for you.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I'm going to get right down to it. I know time is of the essence. So I'm a information technology specialist 1. I moved to Georgia a couple of years ago because my manager said it was okay. I telework 100% of the time. And my new manager told me that CalHR just passed the telework policy, and they're going to require teleworkers to live in the state of California if they're teleworking. And they'll have, I guess in the policy, I haven't seen it, but they said they sent it to the union, noticed the union, and there's a 60-day clause in there that will require any state employee who teleworks that lives out of state to return to California, move back within 60 days or they'll get fired. So I was wondering, I know Irene responded to my email that I sent her. Irene, I sent you earlier in the week or last week, and I appreciate that. But I was just wondering if you could speak on that part of the policy, and if I work for CDCR, if CDCR would be able to have their own policy that doesn't include that type of language in the telework policy, and keep their employees who don't live in California so that they can keep their jobs.
Well, I'm going to actually, I'm going to ask Brooke to jump in here if I'm saying something out of turn. But we have not seen CDCR's telework policy as of today's date. From what I understand, they have not submitted it. We have not reviewed it. So I can't speak to what is actually in that policy because we haven't actually received it. They haven't noticed us on it yet. The telework agreement that we signed is a general policy. It covers all departments, and departments do have the ability to make small minor adjustments as long as they're following the model policy. So I'm not quite sure what is in CDCR's. As soon as they notice us and we're able to review it, we will definitely take notice of that. We'll pay attention to the out-of-state issue that you are bringing up. And I don't have an answer for you at this time unless Brooke has an answer for you at this time.
I can add a little bit more, but it's not good news.
Well, yeah.
But I feel like I just want to put it out there. There's actually a provision within the government code that states that you have to live within the boundaries of California in order to telework. So my guess is that they're trying to comply with that law. And unless and until we can get that changed, we're going to see some folks that are in this situation where management previously approved it when they shouldn't because it's a violation of the law. They're now having to clean up their act. And we don't believe that burden should be placed on the individual employee when management sanctioned this. So that's definitely something that we're going to have to look into and mitigate. Whether we are going to be able to convince them or get that law changed is, I think, going to be a larger process that we need to look at. But I just wanted to put that out there. So you have that as a reference point, but it's actually in the government code that requires it. It's not within the policy that we negotiated or that the department has put out.
Well, yeah, I didn't know that. So thanks for letting me know that. And I know that my previous supervisor spoke to our legal department, and they said it was okay because the policy itself didn't have any language that said you couldn't live out of state if you're teleworking.
Right.
That's true. That part is
So
true.
my hope is that you have some of this in writing and documented in an email or something.
No,
And
that's the interesting thing is my entire unit, we all signed our telework policies, and there's 50 of us that don't live in the state anymore. There's a lot of information technology staff that moved out of state, maybe not as far as I did. I mean, I live in Georgia, but some of them live in, Nevada, Oregon, different places. And we all signed our telework agreement, and we put our addresses on the telework agreement. And the funny thing is, I guess it should have been a clue because there was no place to list the state that you live. There was only a place to list the city. And so, we all put our addresses there, and it was like, they rushed us. They said, hey, you got to get these telework agreements signed within, 2 days. We all signed them. And then management did not sign the telework agreements. So they have our signed telework agreements. And I think what happened is they realized that there was a lot of us that don't live in the state anymore. And so they didn't sign any telework agreements.
well, Brooke is shaking her head so that she must have some thoughts on that. But if you had any email or any written communications with your management prior to moving out of state, I
Yes.
hope you still have that, and you should save that.
So Tom.
Yeah. I sent a copy of that over to Kevin, who I've been talking to about it.
Right.
Kevin Martinez.
Yeah, your ERC rep. I'll touch base with Kevin as well, because as you know, part of the agreement that we signed was our Telework Joint Labor Management Committee that, we still have to pick dates for to get it up and running. And that would be an excellent conversation or topic or issue to bring to that discussion and have some conversation around it. You know, myself, I really feel for those that have actually moved out of state and were put under a management decision to do that. And hopefully we can work something out. But we'll just have to keep moving forward and working with your URC representative. And I'll touch base with him as well. And let's see what we can get done. Okay.
And thank you. And what I discovered during the process was I was just going to quit instead of getting fired. I called CalPERS and said, hey, if I get fired, do I lose my pension? They said, no, you don't lose your pension. I said, well, if I quit, do I lose my pension? They said, no. They said, but if you quit and you don't retire within 120 days, you lose your medical, dental, and vision benefits. So I'm 50 years old. If I quit, call the state of California back when I'm 55, I don't have any medical, dental, or vision. And I've already worked for the state for 25 years. So is there anything on the bargaining table that you can do to make sure that that kind of that gap is closed, so that if a state employee does quit their job for 4 or 5 years, that they're still eligible for the medical, vision, and dental? That doesn't seem right to me.
As I understand it, Thomas, and somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, but that is also in our that's in the state law that creates CalPERS and the retirement package. And I'm getting a nod from Brooke. So if you do not retire from state service as an active employee, then you're not entitled to the other benefits, which is anything past your cash retirement benefit. So that's in the law. So if we wanted to change that, that's another big lift, right?
Yeah. So the incentive there is to never quit unless you're going to retire.
Well, yeah, it's one way to hold us captive, right?
Yeah. No, it's okay. I just wanted to bring it up. I didn't know that until the situation came up. So
And a lot of people don't realize that. It's a great point to bring up and actually have a discussion about. Hey, we appreciate you calling in. We have
Thank you.
a lot of hands. We're going to move on.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, Christina. Can you unmute? There.
Hi, it's Christina Chavez. I am an up and coming local representative for our union. I'm at Ironwood State Prison as a pharmacy tech. So I had a couple of questions that a couple of my techs got with me and wanted me to bring up. Many of the pharmacy techs are canceling or looking into canceling their membership because they feel like they're being unequally represented at the bargaining table. Also earlier when you were talking about numbers to support our classification, we're a very small classification. And we are wondering, is there anything new or improving being brought up at the bargaining table for pharmacy techs? 2, is it going to be brought up for pharmacy techs to get another raise? And 3, are pharmacy techs going to be considered for the essential worker pay? Because we did not get to telework. We worked through the whole pandemic due to the nature of our job. So we are wondering if it's being brought up for us to receive that essential worker pay as well.
So thank you, Christina, for your questions. Let me see if I can remember everything. We do know that the pharmacy techs are being a vocal group. I've actually been speaking with a few of you, even through the contract campaign, excuse me, not the contract campaign, but through the campaign for the elections a year or so ago. It seems to be a year, almost a year. So I'm very much aware of some of the issues that you guys are dealing with, and we will definitely be looking at them as we move forward in the contract campaign. We do know that the essential worker pay, we do have dates, guys. We are going to the table on June 9th to talk with the state about the essential worker pay. And yes, definitely the pharmacy tech and all those that have actually been working during the pandemic will be considered for this essential worker pay. Don't know what that's going to look like right now. We do need to have the conversations and start the negotiations, but everyone will be considered within this conversation that we'll be having with the state. Will you be considered for a salary increase? Absolutely. I think that we're all going to fight for every increase that we can get for all classifications. And as we move forward through our contract campaign, please make sure that you answer the surveys, come to the town halls. You can go send an email to bargaining@sciu1000.org. And we will definitely start working together to move forward and get what we need to get done at our bargaining in 2023. Together, we can accomplish anything that we set our mind out to be. So I think we're going to have a good contract season this year. Brooke, did you want to add anything to this? Bill?
So just for a minute, I understand people's frustration with the organization. I've certainly been frustrated at times myself. And one of the things that people should keep in mind is that bargaining is between us and the state. We don't make all the rules. The more power we have, the better contract we can get. So when we think about power, what power does a union have? At Local 1000, it's solidarity. So when I choose to stand next to you, and you choose to stand next to me, we will do better. But that's a choice. And that choice needs to be made both when times are good and when times are hard. And probably more important to make that choice when times are hard. And our real power comes out of solidarity. Our real power comes out of members who choose to step up and do a little bit more. And that doesn't mean that everybody has to, but our members who choose to be stewards, our members who choose to give up time to be on the bargaining team, our chairs who spend large amounts of time away from their families to get a contract. Irene, who's sitting next to me, who I can assure you works more than a 40-hour week by far for her state paycheck, and the privilege to serve our membership. I mean, I feel privileged to be here doing what I'm doing for people. And it's a great responsibility. But it's my hope that moving forward, people will start to see the idea that if they're going to improve their lives over the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years, it's only going to be by choosing to stand together in the face of some really, really strong opposition. So I hope that you and the rest of your pharmacy techs continue to have discussions. And I hope that they will choose to stay members and continue to fight with us so that we can do better by everybody. And I really appreciate your calling in and sharing your concerns and frustrations with us. Hi, Diana. Can you unmute and join us?
Yes, thank you. I have a question with regards to the telework policy. And the agency that I work for, I believe, has not yet finalized their telework policy for the agency as a whole. However, the enforcement branch made the decision to return to work. And so all of the sworn staff, all the regional offices, all returned 100%. The administrative staff who support the enforcement branch have been recalled 50%. And so, but there's no right. I mean, I guess my question is, they recalled everyone 50%. They may recall everyone 100% in that more in solidarity for the same classifications in the regional offices who are supporting people who are there full time, as opposed to those of us who are in the admin office who don't necessarily, even though we support the regional office, and there's some positions such as mine that that has a completely separate function. And so but they're just recalling us because you're saying, well, all AGPAs, all SSAs have been recalled. So you have to come back and do that without looking at the specifics of an individual job description. So what is the policy? And I understand my agency doesn't have one, but if the management decides just to do that recall, is that it? I mean, if they're not, or can they just say that they're not going to look at individual positions and just make it blanket?
So thanks for that. Would you be up to sharing what department you work for?
I work for the Department of Insurance.
Okay, that's helpful to us. I see pens moving, notes being taken. I'm gonna turn this over to somebody else to respond.
Sure, I'll jump in. So your question was, is that it? And no, that's not it. So departments have a requirement to be reasonable in their decision-making and support that decision with facts based on the job that you do day in and day out. So it's management's responsibility to do that analysis, not just blanket for an entire department or an entire unit or an entire classification, but to actually take the time and analyze the work being done and make a determination whether or not it's reasonable for you to telework or not. Now, ultimately, that's management's decision. We as the union can't tell them, hey, you have to let these folks telework 100% of the time. But we do have a right to file a grievance if the telework is unreasonably denied. And that's the standard. It's a very broad standard that we have to prove up based on facts. But what I would encourage you to do is if you feel like you are being unreasonably denied telework, that you call the MRC and we can file a grievance. And that language already exists in our contract under section 21.1. So it's not sufficient for management to simply say, oh, it's based on operational need. We need you to come back. That's not enough. They need to give us the denial in writing. So you should always ask for your supervisor to put that in writing. They are required by our contract and our side letter to put that in writing, and ask them for the reasons for why the telework was denied so that we can then determine whether or not it was reasonable. And that's management's responsibility to do. And it's going to be our job as the union and as all of you to enforce that language, because if we don't enforce it, it's meaningless. And when Irene and I and our bargaining team get back to the table, both at our JLMC and in 2023, when we go into full-scale bargaining, we need that evidence. I need that information. I need the grievances to be able to show where the hot spots are, how this language needs to be adjusted. You know, our bargaining team during the side letter fought hard for as strong a language as we could get. And the state was just unwilling to budge. So we need to now be able to prove to them that this isn't working, and here's why it's not working. Because you have some departments, potentially like the Department of Insurance, that are abusing the system. And so we need to hold their feet to the fire, and we need your help to do that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, Mario. Can you join us?
Yes, it's Mario. Thank you. But
Hi.
anyway, and this question is for Brooke, actually. Brooke, there's a lot of improvement that needs to be done as far as safety and health. And I already mentioned to President Brown about this and also to Annika. And I was hoping maybe, well, I won't say maybe, hoping that you can help me get statistics, numbers, OSHA logs, so I can go ahead and actually begin analysis of this, of the safety, the injuries that are happening across the state. Well, more specifically, the DMV, Department of Motor Vehicles. OSHA 300 logs supposed to be posted in every single workplace, for example. I mean, I already told you this before in the past, and that would really, I wonder if I can get your assistance on that, so that way I can begin the process of actually bargaining in the next phase. Because, well, having know about management, they want numbers. You know, you can tell stories, that's very good, that's always essential, but numbers is what speaks. Okay, I don't know. I'll just leave it at that. Thank you. If I can get your help. Thanks.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. Numbers are very powerful. So yeah, folks may not know this, but prior to us going to bargaining, we do multiple information requests that are many, many pages long. And that is a solid point that you raise, and I will raise it to our research department as well, so they have that information and we can make sure that we add that to our request for information.
Hey, thanks. Ranja, can you unmute again and rejoin us?
Yes, thank you. I'm sorry, I muted myself and I couldn't unmute after I muted.
That's okay. Welcome back.
Thank you. I wanted to thank Irene for answering my question. And then I also had something else to ask, and I think it would be geared toward Irene. If we are currently teleworking, according to the side letter, is my agency supposed to provide adequate notice before they say, no, this is going to be office based, or do they have to provide something to us, telling us in writing that they're changing or modifying the schedule?
Yes, they should be notifying you. So the table was an interesting table, and one of the conversations was around this exact topic. And we were able to secure language that said that they would endeavor to give 30 days notice, but no less than 15 days notice on any revision to a telework agreement or any termination of a telework agreement. So the bottom line is at the most 30, but no less than 15 days should they be giving you notification if something is going to change to your telework agreement. And if that's not happening, you always call the Member Resource Center at 866-471-7348. Let them know what is going on so that your URC representative can get in contact with you and act on your behalf. But it is very essential that we all have notification when we've been teleworking, whether or not that's part-time, full-time, or 3/4 of time. You build your life around your working environment and your work schedule and your work hours. And so sometimes you need to have adequate notice in order to make adjustments. And that is one of the reasons why we fought very diligently to get this language inside of our side letter agreement. So again, 30 days at the most, 15 days minimum for any revision and or termination to a telework agreement.
They never gave me a telework agreement in writing.
When did they give you, have they given you notification yet?
No, they haven't, but everything's been verbal. At Covered California, when I was there, I had a telework agreement, but at this agency, they never gave me anything in writing.
So what's your agency?
The California Commission on the Status of Women and Girls.
Okay, we're taking notes, and we appreciate you giving us as much information as we ask for.
Thank you.
And most likely, they're probably going to start rolling out your telework agreements now that we've signed a side letter. They are probably most likely going to start rolling those out really, really soon. And they're probably going to start giving us notices on their telework for each individual department to the local. And so I would say that, you don't have a telework agreement now, but it's probably going to be coming relatively soon. But if you are teleworking now and they are still, maybe going to adjust it, I would still think that provision still applies. They should be giving you at least 15 days notice before any revision is made.
Okay, thank you.
I would just add that it's okay to be proactive. So for those of you that are listening, if you are teleworking and you don't have a formalized telework agreement, go ahead and ask your supervisor and say, hey, we heard that you're supposed to fill out this form. I'm supposed to have a formal telework agreement so I can get the stipend, and start pushing them to do this, because they're going to have everybody sign a form and formalize the telework agreement. And the sooner we get them to do it, the better.
Excellent point.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, Scott. Can you unmute and join us?
Hi, Bill.
Hi,
I have
Scott.
sort of unusual probably question. There may not be very many people that have this.
Uh-oh, we lost you, Scott. Did you mute yourself?
Can you hear me?
Ah, we can hear you now.
Okay. With the agreement, you pick the office centric or remote centric. So for now, I picked office centric just because, there's only the two choices. But with the work I do, I have to sometimes travel, and I have to, what am I trying to say? I have to do, I may go into the office one day the week, and I may go in every day the following week. It just depends. I'm a senior ITS2. So with my work, it's totally dependent on the work and the projects, not on whether I'm working from home or working from the office. So and in our agreement that we got, I'm with State Fund, it actually included verbiage in there regarding working a 40-hour week, reporting hours in Oracle, et cetera, which we don't do. We're FLSA exempt. So my real question though is, if I don't want the stipend, how do I reject it?
By simply completing being office-based, you've rejected it.
Well, I'm office-centric, not office-based. I don't want to be office-based because I have to travel and have other things. I just don't want the stipend.
Right,
I think the language that the state is using is office-based. So if you just complete it as being an office-based employee, that doesn't restrict you from traveling or doing your job.
Yeah.
But
Then you're
by
not
being-
working at home at all.
Correct. However, your supervisor and your relationship with your employer, they can still allow you, especially as an exempt employee, to work the work as they have been in the past.
And the definitions are not all or nothing. It's not that you're only working from home or you're only working from the office. There's room for flexibility within the 50% or more, and they encountered that it would likely change for some folks from week to week, from month to month. One month, somebody may get the stipend, the next month, they may not. And so there's room for that flexibility within the policy. But yes, Bill and Irene are right. You could just say, I don't want it. This is how I want to be based. And then you sign your agreement that way.
Okay, because I guess that makes sense, but I'm just gonna, last night I asked the same question to Annika, and she'd said contact Cal or my HR transaction specialist and tell them I don't want it. So I may try that first.
Well, you'll have to complete your telework agreement form.
Well, I did. We already had to file it, even though it had verbiage in there that's only applicable to non-exempt employees.
Right. Well, we can't fix the state, right?
Well, right, but it doesn't mean
know
the
that.
agreement doesn't include the money in the actual telework agreement. That's the side letter. So the agreement I've signed doesn't actually include the money, and I want to refuse it.
So did you put down that you were office-centered on your agreement when you signed
I
this
put
one?
on there office-centric, yes, which is
Okay.
2.5 days actually in an office.
Right.
Okay,
So at 50% or more office-based, you don't qualify for the stipend.
Yeah, you get the lower amount.
Oh, yeah.
Office-centric.
It's a
Yeah, you could get the
$25 only.
25.
Yeah,
Right,
only
yeah.
if you're teleworking, but it sounds to me that your position is not a teleworking position. It sounds to me like it's a field position. And so therefore, the stipend most likely would not apply.
Okay, I'll work it out then.
Yeah, but know that that agreement is what triggers the payment of the stipend. So
Right.
that's what you need to talk to them about, how that agreement is signed off on, and they may need to adjust the language within the agreement to say that you are
Okay.
a field worker.
Okay,
Thanks, Scott.
Thank you.
Good luck going
Okay.
forward.
okay.
Hi, good evening. Can you unmute and join us?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, my question regarding the stipend. How did you all arrive with the dollar amount, the 25 and I think she said 50, or am I wrong? What was that based on? I guess is my question.
Well, I'm going to tell you, and Brooke can jump in here. We didn't arrive at that dollar amount. That was a dollar amount that the state presented to us. If you recall, we did not accept that dollar amount, and we diligently fought against accepting a $50 and $25 stipend. At this time, however, due to the state's non-movement, they just did not have the ability to move off of that first initial offering of the $50 and $25. We will have an opportunity to go back to the table in 2023 to, negotiate a stronger telework agreement that may include a higher salary or stipend along with it. But there was just no movement there, and there was no opportunity to increase that salary stipend at any way, shape, or form. We did have a number of other unions that actually took the agreement or the proposal that the state had given them at face value. There wasn't any negotiations, and when that kind of happened, it sort of put us in a little bit of a behind the eight ball, I could say, a little bit behind the eight ball. And so once that happened, they generally could not move any further than where they were at. I don't know if that answers your question fully. Brooke, if you have anything that you want to jump in here with as well.
I mean, one of the rationales, I mean, it's a good question because we asked that to the state. How did you come up with 50 and 25? I mean, their answer to us was that they felt like that was a fair amount based on the additional cost that folks would incur from working at home. We raised a lot of evidence to show like, hey, you can't even get, a lot of internet service for $50 a month. Their response
Exactly.
was, well, we understand that, but guess what? You're using that internet service for your own personal use. So do you want us to start checking to see how much of that are you using to download movies? How much of that versus how much are you actually using for your job to perform the work you do every day for the state of California? So those are, I mean, we started splitting hairs like that. But that was their basic explanation, was that they felt like, with the amount that folks are saving in parking and in commute costs with gas, and we were raising, well, they've got additional internet, they've got electricity and all of these things. Yep. So we did raise all of that, but the state would not budge off of 50 and 25.
Okay. Yeah, the state is saving more money than we are actually.
We raised that too. And we asked them to start showing us the money because they have a dashboard on GovOps that shows estimates of, which departments are teleworking, what amounts they're saving, but know that that is something that we're looking at and our research department is looking at because we want them to track that more specifically. So we can then say like, hey, look at the amount that you've saved in commercial rent, for example. Building upkeep costs. There's all of these different things that fold into that telework dollar amount. And then when you look at $50 and $25, yeah, everybody felt strongly that that was not enough. But know that other state employee unions had already signed off on that. And all of them had in what's called Me Too clauses within their side letters. So that, if anybody else got anything more, they would get more too. So the state was looking at it as, we're not just giving it to one union, we'd have to give it to all, which is, I think, part of their decision in giving 50 and 25 across the board to everybody.
And this is 50 and 25 once a month that'll show up on our checks, but basically we'll get wiped out after taxes, so we won't even see it.
Very possibly.
You're not mistaken.
Yeah.
You're not mistaken.
Yeah, I mean, that's your withholdings that you can then get back when you file your taxes. But yeah, it may not even be within your same check. It will probably be coming as a separate check, which we also fought hard against. But the state's payroll system is so broken that they have difficulty trying to get everything in one check.
So what you're saying is the state's gonna have to spend a bunch of money to send me a check for 10 cents.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, that makes sense.
That works.
Thank you. All right, well, thanks a lot, you guys.
Thanks for calling in. Good evening, Sharon. Can you unmute and welcome back tonight? Oh no. Sharon, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, great. I thought we lost you for a minute.
Oh, fumbling with trying to unmute. My initial question was with regards to the telework agreement. Now, I kind of had a feeling that we were going to be stuck with the 25 and 50 simply because of so much mishmash that had happened before we even had the opportunity to sit down and have an intelligent discussion on the topic. But I understand And it was pointed out to me that the state controller's office has language with regards to internet usage for teleworking. So if you had to increase your internet so that you can telework, you can ask for a reimbursement from your agency for the additional bandwidth or additional cost that you have incurred for teleworking. The other thing is, with regards to that, are we still eligible for, we would be eligible to receive that, that reimbursement on top of the teleworking stipend? And also on the whole teleworking agreement, I'm from Covered California here in Fresno. So Covered California gave notice to us back in November last year that they were coming out with a permanent teleworking agreement that had to be signed by the end of January. And for the most part, I think everybody has signed it, myself included. And it has some nifty little codicils on it that that can prevent you from being allowed to telework. Nothing monumental, but just something, eye-opening. But from what I understood with the teleworking agreement that was in place, it was based on, we were in an emergency situation. So anything that happened prior to any ink signatures being applied this year are all based on, those were emergency measures. So those are no longer in effect when the permanent agreement rolls out. Is that right?
That is correct. That is correct. You will have to sign a new telework agreement.
Okay, so we just signed one in January. Now that SEIU has inked one out for the state as a whole, will we have to sign another one or sign an amendment?
You will have to sign another one. It's a requirement of the telework agreement that you have to sign a new one. And I believe within that agreement, Sharon, no longer will you be able to have the submit your claims for reimbursement. So it would only be the $50 and $25.
Okay, that new the one that we just signed in January also indicated that we are no longer, because we also had people that were working out of state, and we are no longer being allowed to work out of state, that we had until the end of February, I believe, to return to the state and continue with employment within the state agency. So I don't think we lost that many people, but Covered California is full of fluctuation. So we brought in quite a few new people hired on.
Right, and I think that again we spoke about that a little bit earlier, and I believe that it's because of a government code that is in regulations, and we can't really bypass that. And so I think you are already aware of that, Sharon.
Yeah.
So hopefully it's not too many people that were out of state, and they can come. Maybe they can come back for a while. I don't know.
Okay. When is the new telework agreement going to affect? So I can apply for my reimbursement before it takes effect.
Well, it's going to be 90 to 120 days before they actually get the payments and everything put out. I'm sure that your department is probably a little bit more proactive than some departments, and they're probably already getting ready to roll out those new telework agreements for you guys to sign relatively soon. So as soon as that takes place and gets rolled out, it's up to your department when they're going to actually complete that process.
Okay, good enough. Thank you. Good stuff.
By
the way, congratulations on the hard work. I firmly believe that all that could have been done in the time that we were given was exemplary. I appreciate and fully lift you up and support you all. Great work.
We appreciate that, Sharon. Thank you.
Thank you, Sharon. Have a good evening.
Thank you. You as well.
Hi, Frank. Welcome. Can you unmute tonight?
Yes, thank you, Chair Hall. I just want to put it out there and say, with all the negativity that is out there on social media right now, I just want to give a big heartfelt thank you. First off, my name is Frank Askin. I'm a Unit 1 IT CBER from the California Unemployment Insurance Appeals Board over on Gateway Oaks. And I just want to give a big heartfelt thank you to Brooke and Irene and the rest of the bargaining team. I know that this was a team effort, but from the bottom of my heart, I am grateful for anything that we get. And thank you guys very much. And I look forward to working with you.
Well, thank you, Frank, and I think everybody will look forward to seeing you on the 14th and 15th.
Thanks, Frank.
Thank you,
See
Frank.
you soon.
Hi, David. Can you unmute?
Sure. Yeah. Thanks again. So a couple of my follow-up questions were, when do you expect the bargaining surveys to be sent out? I've heard from other unions that they've already sent theirs out. And then my other question is, every May in the state budget, right, on the eBudget .ca.gov website, they come up with a May revise. And in that document, it says employee compensation. They have a section for it. I don't remember the section number. So it seems like they've already set aside a amount for compensation and raises. So if that's the case, where's the bargaining taking place if already the state has already put aside a number of how much state employees are going to get paid, and even accounting for raises during, that's done through collective bargaining?
So I'm gonna take the bargaining survey part. I think Brooke can take the maybe revise part.
Okay, no problem.
I will say that the bargaining surveys, yes, we are going to be doing them a little bit earlier than we normally do them within the bargaining cycle. I think you could probably look for some activity to start within July, August of this year. We'll be doing a number of things, which is including doing a survey. So we're looking for some engagement on how we can bring you guys into the bargaining arena. Give you more information and more opportunity for input to tell us how you're feeling and what it is that you would look for us to do as far as bargaining on your behalf. I do know that the May revise comes in, and just from my previous experience and knowledge, whenever I was looking at salaries, I always had a number to deal with prior to actually going out and hiring people or giving raises, etc. And so there was always a financial component that was put in place prior to going out and actually recruiting people or hiring people into those positions. I do believe the state is probably operating in the same way, but Brooke will probably have, well, not probably, Brooke will have a little bit more detail on how we actually come up with the figures to work with during bargaining. So I'm gonna let Brooke kind of take it away.
Yeah, just going back to the bargaining surveys real quick, those other unions have put out the bargaining surveys because they're in bargaining or are going to be bargaining this summer. We don't bargain until next year. So yes, typically we wait a little bit longer, and we've done that in the past because our bargaining team wants the survey results to be fresh. So closer in time to when we hit the table, rather than saying like, oh, this information is over a year old, and the state responding and saying, well, how is that information stale or not? So, I think we are going to be doing it sooner than we've ever done it in the past. I think we're going to be doing multiple bargaining surveys this time rather than just one large one. So I just want to encourage everybody to make sure that the MRC has your personal email, because if you are not on the list and we don't have your email, we can't send you the bargaining survey. So or visit our website often, because we always put updates on bargaining there as well. And then with respect to the May revise, that's really, it's a planning document like anything else, as people are planning their budgets for the year. So yes, you do see that the state has budgeted for certain salary increases, but that's not locked into place. How that money gets divided up, when they tell us, we've got, 5%, what are the priorities for Local 1000? Where does that money get spent? There's some amount of that, but we can always move the needle. And we've shown in the past that, based on what they've budgeted, we were able to move the needle. For example, they didn't at first budget anything for this telework stipend. Nobody knew it was going to happen. But they have ways of making it work. So when we negotiate things within the contract cycle or more than what they've budgeted for, the state has to go back and take it through the Joint Legislative Budget Committee for approval through the legislature. And that recommendation comes from CalHR and the Department of Finance to make that happen. But know that there are ways to move beyond what you simply see in that May revise. But it's smart to look at it because it does show us their hand, right?
Absolutely.
So in closing, I think this has already been telegraphed, but to be clear, we are looking at doing bargaining different. So again, watch what we're doing and let us know if we're on the right path.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Brooke. Thank you, Irene. Thank you, Bill.
You're welcome. Good evening, Patrocinia. Do I have that right? Can you unmute?
Yes, that's correct. Patrocinia? Yes, I go by Patsy. I'm an
Okay,
RN.
Patsy, welcome.
I'm an RN from Department of Developmental Services, Bargaining Unit 17. And the issue that I'm having right now is voluntary overtime. And there's more psych techs at that facility where I work at than there are RNs. So we're outnumbered. So anyway, when last time when we did our contract, the RNs were put at the bottom of the list for mandatory overtime. And because of that, I felt like they were retaliating. So what they do now for voluntary overtime, they're putting the RNs at the bottom of the list also. So whenever I sign up for overtime, there's a system that they use. It's like first come, first serve. Whoever signs up first gets it first. But then when I call to see how come I haven't been called for overtime and other people get called over and over, they say the RNs are put at the bottom of the list, which is not fair. So our contract says that voluntary overtime should be distributed out fairly. But then the psych tech contract says that the psych techs will get the voluntary overtime first. So basically their contract is superseding our contract, the psych techs are. So I just wanted to know if that's something that we could put on the bargaining table so that they can make the voluntary overtime fair so the RNs are not at the bottom of the list and getting called last. Or make the voluntary overtime list visible so that we can know, like, if so-and-so signed it before me or I signed it before them, we can't see that. They're not letting us see that list.
So I am going to say I understand your frustration. When you're trying to do voluntary overtime, you want to make sure that you're on that list as much and as often as possible. And to find out that there is a group of people that are actually put above you, that's kind of disheartening. So I do understand that. I will check with our bargaining unit 17, bargaining unit chair, Vanessa Seastrom, and let her know what is going on with your unit. And we'll have that conversation. And as we move forward, we'll make sure that we at least address this issue at the table when we get into bargaining in 2023. So I do appreciate you bringing it up for us, Patrocina. We'll definitely keep it on the front burner, make it a tickler file, and make sure that we put this as one of the issues that Unit 17 needs to address, okay?
Yeah, and then I just want to let you know too, like the bargaining unit 17, they have one for the CDCR, which is different than the Department of Developmental Services. So just keep that in mind because one time when I called the union, they were thinking it was the same as the CDCR, bargaining unit 17, because their VOT goes by seniority, so ours is different.
Oh, thanks for reminding us of that.
Yeah.
And just, to let you know, we're moving forward on the essential worker pay.
Okay. So who would I talk to or what would I do to see like if anything's being done about it? Or like you said, you're gonna
About
talk to Vanessa or
essential worker pay?
No. So
Or
I would, have you called the MRC yet, Patrocina?
no, So how would I get in contact with them or
So
what do I do?
you haven't called the MRC yet?
No.
Okay, I'm sorry. I just have
No.
whispers in your ears, so I'm not quite sure what you had said. So the members resource number is 866-471-7348.
Okay.
You also can reach your unit chair, right? It's unit 17 at SEIU1000.org. That is their email box.
Okay.
You can actually send a conversation or an email message to your unit chair, and she will respond to you as well. So
Okay.
you have two ways of reaching her, okay?
Okay. All right.
And I will also send a message to her myself as well. So,
Yeah, that would be something good, like I said, to put on our contract, because their contract verbiage is different, saying that they are before us. So, and that's what they're using when I talk to management and ask them, and they just say, "Oh, well, you guys at the bottom of the list because the site tech contract says that they're going to be called first." So like I said, it's like maybe something we could put on the contract to say that we're not at the bottom of the list for VOT.
right.
Okay.
Thanks for bringing that forward.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Yeah, you too.
Thanks.
Hi, Gerald. Can you unmute? There we go.
Evening.
Good evening.
How's everyone doing?
Doing well, thank you.
I have a couple of questions about bargaining. I'm from Unit 11. As you all know, Unit 11 voted no against this past contract. And that was overturned, I guess, with a revote by the board of directors and our past president. One of my questions is, will there be special salary adjustments again? Will there be anything different than last bargaining? And also, what did Unit 11 do incorrectly to not be added to the list of Unit 11 items on the bargaining? I know we need to talk to our unit chair, which a lot of the times we reach out to Brad Willis and don't get much response. He doesn't really seem to care about the largest classification in Unit 11, which is our transportation engineering technician position. Some comments are, oh, we're greedy, we're overpaid, so on and so forth. So we put together a classification report showing all the historical documentation back when we were at CSEA with the president of CSEA, Pete McCleary. He was very helpful up until the point we went with SEIU. Things seemed to slow down, and we have a lot of issues other than just salary parity. The department hires other classifications to fill in for the attrition rate. They always bring up attrition rate. So they hire engineers to backfill our positions. Now they're starting to talk about hiring jets because they don't want to do the post and bid. Ann Hudson had talked about us getting a JLMC. She was the vice chair for Unit 11 in the past, but we never ended up getting a JLMC. Over the last 3 or 4 contracts, we've had special matter experts talking to the state. One year it was, oh, we don't have the money. The next year it's something else. So once again, what would you guys suggest Unit 11 should have done differently or could do? We organized to the point where we were able to vote no against the contract because we weren't included. Our voices aren't being heard. And we are trying to do whatever we need to do. We're not anti-union or anything like that. I mean, a lot of rumors go out there. We're trying to decertify, which isn't true at all. I've been a member, I've been a state work for 31 years. I've been to the Capitol fighting against them contracting our work out in construction and in design. So there's a lot going on, but no one really seems to care, to be honest. We're ready to strike. We were the last contract, but that didn't come about. But we can be as organized as possible, but still we feel our voices aren't being heard. There are a lot of frustrated engineering technicians. I get emails all the time, a lot of frustrations. Who would I send those emails to? That could be my third question, of all the frustration that people are going through. I'm afraid something's going to happen, from all the emails I read of the frustration. So what would you all suggest?
So I think there's 3 questions in there, and Brooke seems willing to step up and start at the
Yeah,
beginning.
I'll start. I mean, I've been at the local since 2007, so I've been involved in some way or another in every bargaining cycle that we have done since 2007. And I can say that Unit 11 has passed proposals for TETs every single contract cycle. So the question becomes, what do the TETs do? How do they react when you don't get an SSA? The answer is you need to go back to your department, because, and I have said this for easily the last 10 years I've been at the local, your department doesn't respect your classification. They don't. And they have been showing over a period of time that they're replacing you. They're replacing our TETs. They're replacing folks that have done this job for 20, 30 years that are irreplaceable based on the experience that they have and the work that they do with engineers who don't have that same level of on-the-job experience. Sure, they have a degree, and I can say this as an attorney. A lot of people say that it's great that you have a degree, but can you do the work? And so I will tell you, your department has not been respecting the TETs. We passed that proposal in the last contract cycle, Gerald. We had great presentations from our TETs. You guys showed out and showed up over and over again. The department said no. The state wouldn't go for it. And so, the question is, we need to continue to put the heat on your department and make them feel it. I mean, it's fine, and I respect, your guys' decision for however you want to move, for voting that contract down. I get it. You were pissed off, and I understand why. But the fight doesn't lie within ourselves. You got to direct it at the folks who have the purse strings, which is the state, and that's where that needs to belong. So I think
we sat down with the director of the DOT, Malcolm Doherty, and he brought up attrition rate. We did a survey and got signatures. We did a petition and got 1,000 signatures, but he said, well, you guys only have 800 TETs, and he kind of chuckled. I said, well, because other than our classification, the engineers even signed the petition because they agree with us. They know we're not being treated fairly. And yeah, there are some things that were added in the contract, like the 2020 program, but I guarantee you there's not been one TET over these past years that was able to use the 2020 program. The language in there is so soft.
Right.
It's so soft that it doesn't have any bite to it for the department to have to do anything as far as that is concerned.
Yeah, the department just refuses. We continue to bring it up to them, and they just refuse to put in stronger language, and they refuse to put people through the 2020 program. Again, it's a lack of respect for state workers. I mean, that's what
work from our union. That would be great. I mean, I think we could really make something happen with the department and make a change. There's no upward mobility. There are people that have 20 plus years with no upward mobility. Maybe a deeper classification.
Right.
Class possible.
Yeah, Gerald, I think we hear you. And you were here a couple weeks ago, and we heard you then. And I know that I've heard you. I work for Caltrans. I think I shared that with you. We have time as we move forward. You will see that we're going to approach this differently than we have in the past. And we will reach out and engage you as we move forward, I'm sure.
Okay, I'll have other technicians call in. I'm sure people get tired of hearing my mouth over the years.
It's fine, Gerald. Look, you're being heard, and you will be included and engaged as we move forward. Watch what we're doing. We're going to do things different.
Okay, thank you for taking my call.
Thanks, Gerald. Hi, Stephanie. Can you unmute?
Hello, this is Stephanie.
Hi, welcome.
Hi, sorry, I'm probably going to be a minute here. I am a dental assistant. I'm also a union steward, and I'm also on the e-board at CSP Solano. First of all, like the other gentleman before me brought up with the 2020 program, I was on the 2020 program, and it got pulled on me right before I went to nursing school, like literally the day I was supposed to go to nursing school. So it's not really that the state's not pulling it. You guys wouldn't take it through arbitration. It went to arbitration. You guys said, no, we won't go to court. but I had a very strong case. I even had letters from the CEO saying that I was going to be fine after I started this nursing program. So I had a very strong case, and you guys decided not to do anything with it. So don't put that all on the state. So that was my personal thing. As the union steward, I wanted to say that with my classification, the dental assistants, whenever you guys go to bargaining, it's been brought up before, but we wait way too long to reach our maximum pay. It's ridiculous. I will be here, I think 14 or 15 years in August, and then I will finally be maxed out. Where other people are maxing out at 5 or 7, we have this like 3-year waiting period in the middle, and it's just really silly. We lose a lot of dental assistants once they reach about 5 or 6 years because they just aren't making any money. They go be COs, they go be something else. So we would really like that looked at. It's been looked at before, but it hasn't gone anywhere. My IT department, they would like to know what's going on with the everyone who works behind the walls getting safety pay and getting safety retirement, because they are here in the prison like everyone else. They're coming into the clinics just like everyone else. I have a problem with my computer, they're there. They should be getting safety pay. It's kind of silly that they don't. Also with the pharmacy techs, they've been given an additional duty right now where they are now delivering narcotics. I was not able to stop that in any kind of JLNC. We were able to make it safer for them to do it, but they're still doing it. And that's something that they haven't done before. And if we can't have them not do it, they need to get paid extra for it. So that needs to be added to when you go to the bargaining table and getting them paid more, because now they're doing this extra job, which does have some inherent danger in it when they're walking around the institution carrying narcotics. Well, they weren't walking anymore. We were able to get them carts. They have carts. Well, they had a cart. Now they got an additional cart. That's besides the point. They have carts, but they're still walking into the buildings. They're not driving into the building. What else was there? I'm forgetting something. The lab tech, they're still interested in moving over to bargaining unit 20. They aren't sure why they're in their bargaining unit where they are, because they are not environmental lab techs. They are drawing blood. They should be for healthcare under bargaining unit 20, but no one knows how to make that happen. And I think that's everything. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Good evening, Eric. Can you unmute?
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. So I'm seeing like a pattern here, and it's kind of weird because it seems like nobody here really gets the backup from the union when they're having issues inside their departments. I'm starting to see that it's a lot of, we need to represent ourselves and we need to go do stuff towards the department. We need to take action within the department. But what is the purpose of the union if they're not, the whole union, we're not together with each other, defending each other's issues?
Yep, did we lose you? Did you mute?
No, I'm still here. I want to hear what the answer is to that.
Are you, were you done, Eric? I'm sorry. So, I hear your frustration. There's a lot of things that we want to have changed and a lot of things that we want to get done. And a lot of times it's because we need to come together and we need to work together in order to move that forward. If you are, my whole model is everything works and nothing works. You can try everything and you can do everything and get no traction. You try the same things over again and all of a sudden you've got a whole lot of traction. It is working together. It is working as a unit. I'm sorry that you felt that you weren't being heard before and that there was no backup from the union. As far as I know, in our experience, the union has been there. We are here. We continue to be here for you. But again, it is working together and is working as one to make sure that we're moving forward and building that membership and building that solidarity is what actually pushes us forward towards that line. We are going to be doing a few things different in this bargaining cycle, in this bargaining season. We'll see if that actually makes an input. I believe it will. I think it's going to make a drastic input. But we need everyone to bear with us, to continue to be with us, and to continue to work towards building this local so that we can have the best contract in 2023. we'll definitely, I'll give you a call, Eric, and we'll have some conversations and see what we can work out between us.
Well, so I'm a bit concerned because we voted, right, to
Mhm.
not accept the stipend that they're trying to give us. Because like Bill Hall just said, they're going to cut a check for 10 cents. I mean, that is ludicrous for the state of California. So I don't understand, if we voted not to do this, why did we go ahead and said, yeah, we'll take it when the members told you not to accept it?
Well, I do understand, and there was a survey that went out, and it was a survey, if I remember correctly, it was about 2,000 people that responded to that survey, but you have to also remember that we represent about 100,000 members. And while that 2,000 we did hear, there was a number of people that actually advocated for moving towards this telework agreement and getting it settled and getting it done. Most were more concerned with actually having an agreement that they can have telework versus having the stipend. But it is a balancing act. I would love to say that we are going to be able to please 100,000 people with all of the decisions that we make, but unfortunately, sometimes it's not that way. We do the best that we can. We make the best decisions that we can. We take input from all of our members, and we move forward towards one. We will have another opportunity to make this language stronger, Eric. We will definitely go back to the table in 2023. We'll have more information, more data, and we'll be able to negotiate a stronger language. But at this time, there was no opportunity for us to move that dollar amount any further than what it was.
So thanks for your call. We're after 8 o'clock. I still have a bunch of hands up. I'm going to take one or two more, I think, and then we're going to call it a night. While we're getting ready to move on, I'd like to remind everybody to take a look on the webpage, check out our membership link, talk to their coworkers, and ask people to join up so that we can stand together to get a better contract. Mario, welcome.
Yeah, my question is this. I believe the state notified the union of the telework. They'll be doing telework back in, I believe, September of 2020. So how come the retroactive pay is only till January 2022? Shouldn't it be back to 2020?
Well,
Yes.
you know what?
Yes.
Every-
We asked for that over and over again. And
everybody,
they over and over told us no.
Everybody asked. The answer was no. I think, unfortunately, there were some missed opportunities back in September that might have had this go in a different direction for everybody.
The
So
reason I'm concerned, Bill, is because of this. If it doesn't go back to 2020, then why even have an agreement? I really am against this whole agreement, okay? There's a lot of details I won't get into, but the survey went out. A majority of us did not want this agreement.
well, the majority of the people who completed the survey, which, as Irene just shared, was about 2,000 total.
So basically you're counting people who didn't vote. Doesn't make any sense.
Well, a survey is not a vote, right? A survey is, asking for an opinion. It's not an actual vote.
That's
So-
correct. But
so-
Irene said there's a 98,000 people she was concerned about. But how did she know this?
Because again, a survey is only as good as the people that respond to it, right?
And the
Mario?
questions that are asked.
And the questions that are asked, that is correct. And a number of people didn't fill out that survey. For whatever reason that they didn't fill out their survey. They didn't fill out the survey, but they did contact their representatives, myself included, the bargaining unit chairs included, the DLC presidents included, stewards. And so there was an unofficial, if you want to call it that, survey that went out, and people actually responded to that and said, this is what we would like. I understand your frustration, Mario. I have to tell you that everybody on the bargaining team was just as frustrated as you are right now and showing your frustration to us. We were. We
Well, but
tried for, hold on, Mario, hold on. We were in bargaining for, I think, since September, October. We have been bargaining. We have been pushing for it. We've been doing the work that we need to do to move that needle. And unfortunately, we were not able to move that needle this time around. It does not mean that we get one bite of the apple and we're done. Not at all. So we will come back and revisit this issue, Mario. I understand your frustration. All of us feel that same frustration. But at this time, this was what we were able to get. And to be honest, we've got 3 or 4 more items in our telework agreement that no other union got. And that is speaking directly to the ability of your negotiating team. So I appreciate your comments, Mario. I understand that you're against the agreement. I can tell you that there's probably 50 times more people that are happy about this agreement, maybe even more. But I do understand it and I appreciate your comments.
prove it. Prove it.
Okay, thanks.
Prove it.
Thanks, Mario. I've got 2 more calls. I'm going to move on over here to Lori real quick. Lori, can you unmute?
Hi.
Hi, welcome.
Well, here's one that's happy with the telework agreement. Here's some proof right here. I'm extremely excited that we're moving forward. And I mean, my husband and I work for 857 EDD, Redlands office, and we're just wanting to stay home. So we love it. And we already had internet, like you said. So, you know, our main thing is we are wondering, for EDD at least, is there any talk about permanent telework? We're just loving it and wanting to stay.
I will tell you at this point, Lori, there isn't any real conversation for the Department of EDD for permanent telework. I'll go out on a limb right now and say I don't believe that there is any talk of calling anybody back to the office right now, but that can absolutely change, right?
Yeah. Yes.
So at this point, you know, I think the EDD department itself is probably going through and evaluating some things, and probably will give a notice out sooner rather than later. But at this time, we are going to be teleworking until the foreseeable future.
So thanks for calling in and asking, and we will keep pushing on the telework. So you're welcome. So with that said, Brooke, what do you think? Should we take the last caller?
All right, we'll let it slide. Go
We'll
ahead.
let it slide?
Yeah, let him go. Let him go.
Irene, should we take the last
I
caller?
say no, but
You say no?
It's 2-1. Go ahead.
Good evening, Vincent. Can you unmute and join us?
Hello.
I hope you're laughing a little bit.
I would just like to start off by saying, nobody knows.
What's your question tonight, Vincent? You're the last caller. We're almost at 8:10.
Yeah, just real quickly, a couple things. First of all, I have had contact with people who have talked about the stipend, and they are ecstatic, and those that aren't, they are actually satisfied with what has gone on. Number 2, as far as the TETs that was concerned that called in earlier, yeah, I think, Bill, we need to do just a little bit better job of talking about the wins that we've had in the past. Okay, with sticking together and being together, I think that will actually help. Two of the things that come to mind is the actuaries and how they got together and how they were actually to get their roles. And then also with the lottery, again, that was our fault. And with the solidarity that we had, we were able to get them what they basically needed. So I think those are examples that we really need to put in the spotlight to show that if we have solidarity and if we stand together, we can get things basically done. So, but my question to you is this: with the telework agreement, and I want to be sure as a steward that I'm actually saying this the proper way. The telework agreement that SDIU Local 1000 is able to is the actual amounts that are actually paid, and not necessarily the telework agreement that was modeled after general services. And the reason why I say it is because even my department has come out with theirs. I've looked at it, I've asked questions about it, but we just agreed about just what the stipends are going to be. Am I correct or am I missing something?
I mean, you're correct for the most part, Vincent. I would say that the DGS statewide policy is the overarching policy. Each department has to stay within that policy, but they can make some modifications to tailor it to whatever their department needs are. The side letter agreement does set forth the stipend program, but does have additional rights and responsibilities for the state contained in the side letter. So you really need to look at all of it as a whole. And then you also have to look at 21.1, our contract. So there's a lot of different moving pieces. And so, I would encourage folks, if they have specific questions around implementation for their telework, they should call the MRC and get in contact with us so we can help guide them through that.
So when I'm going out and I'm talking to people and I do meet with a lot of IT, I should be prepared to look at 21.1 as well as the side letter for telework.
Correct. The point I made earlier, the most important piece of 21.1 is said that the state cannot unreasonably deny telework. And it needs to be in writing. Denials need to be in writing. Remember those two things.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, thanks for wrapping it up for us tonight, Vincent. We really appreciate it. So with this, we're going to say good night, everybody. We're not going to keep Lisa too long tonight. We're already over by 12. Please check out the membership link. Ask your coworkers and others who may not be members to go take a look at the membership application, fill it out, become a member, join with us, choose to be part of moving forward. And I think we're taking a break from this next week. So next week, there'll be no straight talk, but we'll return the week after. And I think we're gonna have some exciting people to talk to and bring to and have you ask questions of. So thanks everybody for coming and showing up. Thanks for your great questions and your participation tonight. And I certainly appreciate you. And I see heads nodding, so I can see that both Brooke and Irene appreciate you as well. So thank you very much and have a great evening and let's go forward.
Thank you, everybody. Good
Bye,
night.
everyone.